My first year as a beekeeper, Season 1. It's the 7th of May and it's time for our second inspection. It's been getting a bit warmer this week, sitting around the 25 degrees Celsius mark, and the bees have definitely been feeling it. So what we can see here is a clip of the bees bearding. This is a process where the bees make room inside the hive for added ventilation. This is basically the bee equivalent of air conditioning. This clip here is from this morning where they were doing their best to keep the hive cool. They do this by sitting outside and fanning their wings to blow air into the hive. If you look closely, you'll also be able to see them bringing in quite a bit of pollen. Let's start off our inspection. As normal, we'll take the top two boxes off the hive and give them a fair few puffs of smoke. So I didn't get to mention this last week, but the feeder that's on top we're actually using to, as the name suggests, feed the bees. So we're doing this with just a couple of litres of sugar syrup. This basically just encourages them to draw out the frames. As we saw in the last week, they are doing a really good job at that. Now that we've taken the feeder off, we can see that there are actually quite a lot of bees in the hive. This definitely seems to be a lot more than the last time we did our inspection. We're going to start by taking the frame out at the back of the hive. I'm expecting this to be mostly nectar and honey here. This is because the bees will try and keep the nectar towards the edges of the hive, and making room for the brood to be in the centre of the hive where it's the warmest. Yep, so as you can see, that is a lot of nectar. If you look at the top of the frame, you may also be able to see that they've started to cap it over. I'm just going to quickly show you a picture of this frame from 5 days ago next to how it is today. It's incredible how much they've managed to do in such a short period of time. We're now going to put this to one side and pull out the next frame. So this next frame that we're pulling out, you might be able to see it from the way I'm lifting it. It is incredibly heavy. It's almost completely full of nectar, and there's also quite a lot of capped honey as well. The capped honey is probably a bit more visible on the reverse side of the frame. We're now at our first frame of brood. For those of you who tuned in to the last episode, you may remember that this was totally empty, whereas now it is completely full of capped brood on the first side and then pretty much empty on the second. That is really impressive for 5 days. Well done, Bertha. So this next frame is pretty much the exact same as it was last time. Full of a mixture of capped brood and kind of empty cells and larvae. Bit of everything basically. So with this next frame we can see it is mostly empty. That would explain why there is a big increase in the number of bees in the hive, because last week there was definitely a lot more capped brood here. So this is going to be something that we'll see quite a bit over the next few frames, so I'll skip over those. So with this next frame, we're going to bring on a special guest. This is Her Majesty Queen Bertha I. She's going to be on camera for a little while, so I want you to see if you can find her. Let me know if you can see her in the comments and at what time. So for those of you who are looking out for her but can't quite see her, I'll give you a little hint. She has a white spot on her and she has a longer bum than the rest of them. So here's a little fact about queen bees. During the peak season, they can lay over 3,000 eggs per day. Wow, that's more than her entire body weight in eggs. This is also a frame which was pretty much empty 5 days ago and is now full of brood. Hopefully you'll be able to see the difference in colour of the frames. This is a good way of telling how old the comb is. As this is a lot lighter, it basically means it's fresh comb. I'm now going to speed over the last couple of frames in the background whilst I wrap up the rest of this video. It definitely looks like they've made a lot of progress over the last 5 days. So much so that I'm going to come back later today and add a new super to the top. This super, otherwise known as a honey box, is an additional box that will give the bees some extra room to store their honey that they produce. Later on in the season, I'll hopefully be taking some of this honey to extract. If you've seen this video in the future and would like to buy some honey, head over to our website and let us know. In next week's inspection, it'll be really interesting to see how they go about filling the new box. Okay, that's all from me. I will catch you in the new episode.